Hello. We're here with Frank Svengsouk. He's an art director with Disney.
Yes.
And from what you can see, we'll be going over the devil in the details. And Frank will be doing his career in review. We should be live. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait till 4 p.m. PST. So just give us 2 minutes to get started. But thank you, everyone, for coming. Hello. We're here with Frank Svengsouk. He's an art director with Disney.
Yes.
And from what you can see, we'll be going over the devil in the details. And Frank will be doing his career in review. We should be live. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait till 4 p.m. PST. So just give us 2 minutes to get started. But thank you, everyone, for coming. Hello. We're here with Frank Svengsouk. He's an art director with Disney.
Yes.
And from what you can see, we'll be going over the devil in the details. And Frank will be doing his career in review. We should be live. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait till 4 p.m. PST. So just give us 2 minutes to get started. But thank you, everyone, for coming. Hello. We're here with Frank Svengsouk. He's an art director with Disney.
Yes.
And from what you can see, we'll be going over the devil in the details. And Frank will be doing his career in review. We should be live. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait till 4 p.m.
Everybody
PST,
getting a
so just
loop
give us
right
2
now?
minutes
Or is that
to get
just me
started.
and
But
my ears?
thank you, everyone, for coming. Hello. We're here with Frank Svengsouk. He's an art director with Disney. Can the chat
Yes.
let us know if you're hearing? From what you can see, we'll be going over the devil in the details. And Frank will be doing his career in review. We should be live. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait till 4 p.m.
everybody
PST,
getting a
so just
loop
give us
right
2
now?
minutes
Or is that
to get
just me
started.
and
But
my ears?
thank you, everyone, for coming. Hello. We're here with Frank Svengsouk. He's an art director with Disney. Can the chat
Yes.
let us know if you're hearing? From what you can see, we'll be going over the devil in the details. And Frank will be doing his career in review.
It looks like we're having
We
a
should be
stream
live.
issue. I'm going
Hello,
to
everyone.
And hopefully that's clear. We'll see. Hopefully that's. Yep. I'm hearing the word.
Yeah, do you want to go to the next slide?
Hopefully that's. Yep. I'm hearing the word. And
Yeah, do you want to go to the next slide?
I'm still hearing it.
Do you want to change your audio output?
I'm still hearing it.
Mute yourself really quick. Do you want to change your audio output? All good.
Well, now you know what the issue is, I guess. All right.
Okay,
So,
so I'm just reconnecting. If you want to go ahead and share.
yes, there we go. All right.
Okay.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, we're live.
Perfect.
No more feedback loops.
No more feedback loops. Sorry about that, guys.
Can everybody hear us without feedback loops? Can you confirm in the chat? We want to make sure we're not driving y'all crazy.
Okay.
Just waiting. I'm going to wait for some responses. Okay, they said they can hear us. No more feedback loops. We are holding Q&A off till the end of the session. You're going to want to stick in. Frank has got some amazing, career insights, career art in this presentation. Yeah, it should be about 30 minutes long, and then we'll have Q&A. So go ahead and chat those questions in the chat box. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Frank. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jenny. So thank you, Xencelabs, for inviting me to do this talk. And thank you guys for tuning in. I don't know how many of you are there. So Mom, thank you. And the guy who is checking out to make sure that I'm not breaking any NDAs, thank you too. So this title sums it up for me. I'm going to give you a little primer on my career as an art director and my thoughts on what makes a good one. So in case you're really wondering, who the fuck is this guy? I'm Frank Svengsouk. I'm currently the manager of visual development for the Disney brand on social. So I've been with Disney now for over 20 years, serving as a creative lead for most of them. Me and my team provide marketing creative support for Disney Social, and I'm going to talk about being in a role that doesn't really get a lot of attention or accolades. As an art director, for the most part, you're a person who guides a creative process from ideation to completion. It's a role you don't always get to paint the final stroke, but without your involvement, the final product will not be the same. So depending on how old you are, you may have come across some of the projects that I've worked on. Let's see. There we go. So if you're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you've probably seen and hopefully liked, shared, and commented on the work that me and my team make on the Disney, Pixar, and Star Wars handles. We've been doing them for about 5 years now, and the amount of work that we do each year is immense. Here's some of the content that I've helped out art direct recently. We create official interpretive stylized art based on the Disney brand properties geared towards the social audience. But let's go back a little further into my career. I worked on tons of flash casual games like this Incredibles fighting game. The art's based off an amazing interpretive style by Eric Tan, and we had a pleasure being able to create this. Or maybe you've seen or played this game. If you're a YouTube fan, you've probably seen the memes. This is what's considered one of the hardest children's games ever. It was made for the Japanese market, and if you're unfamiliar with it, Pooh needs to score a hit against all of his friends, which all have special pitches. And the final boss, Christopher Robin, uses all of these pitches in the character styles. And needless to say, it's super hard. And if you still have Flash Player on your machine and you can pull the Swift off the net, play it and send me an email, an angry email. Or maybe you checked out this website when you were looking for a university to apply to. So this Monsters University viral site was done when I served as the art director for films like Tron Legacy, Frozen, Toy Story, and Disney franchises like Mickey and Fairies. Or if you're an avid texter, you may have come across some of these animated stickers that I've art directed. If you happen to check out Disney Plus, the Stories Continue tour that went across the country this summer, you may have gotten one of these promotional magazines. But let's backtrack a bit, and I'll give you a little tour of my path. Every step of my life has informed me in my profession and in my artistic life. So let me give you a little bit about myself. Let's start from the beginning. So this image culminates my mantra. I'm all about breaking stuff, rules, techniques, traditions, but it's all about knowing them and seeing how far you can bend them. I grew up as a foreign service kid. My dad was a cultural attaché for the US missions, and we traveled around the world. I got to meet and interact with creatives from all fields who were guests of the US government to share American culture with the world. I also got to immerse myself in those cultures and arts of the countries that we traveled to. My mom and my dad both encouraged individualism and finding what sparks your fire. They gave me an appreciation for many things that I still hold dear and inspire me to this day. I'm inspired by movies, music, comics, books, art, and life. They fuel my fire and they lighten my wallet. So when I went to art school, I wanted to be an illustrator. I was inspired by artists like Brad Holland, Gary Kelly, Matt Mahurin. I always had a passion for storytelling. And I felt that with editorial illustration for magazines and stuff, that you could tell a layered story with a single image. As I progressed through school, I pivoted. I focused on storyboarding and entertainment design. This pivot was in part because of my love of movies and sequential art. The goal of being able to make a career involving these things helped lock down what I needed from school and in my portfolio. So I got three main things to go into Art Center. One, a foundation in illustration and design skills. Two, a network of friends and peers that I still have today. And three, the ability to take and give criticism. I also learned one of my main mantras that I continue to preach. If you have a strong foundation in traditional skills, drawing, painting, observation, and storytelling, then it doesn't matter what tool you use, whether it's a pencil or a tablet. When I got out of school, Photoshop just released their version with layers. So tools have definitely made things better. I'm not going to complain. I use every tool that I can, whether if I need to do something in gouache, I'll do it in gouache. If I need to do something digital, it's digital. It just so happens that in our world, digital seems to be the way to go, mainly because we have so many revisions that we need to do. We don't want to be like Drew Struzan, where you're doing an amazing painting and then someone asks you to change that face, and you've got to cut out that piece from the board and peel it off and paint it back in. Photoshop and these digital tools really afford us some flexibility, and I'm definitely not going to complain about that. But as I was saying, I still think that like tools don't mean shit unless you have a foundation to start with. And I know Shannon had a laugh at this, but I'll tell this one side story before moving on. So at the time, our team was just getting into trying to see whether a digital pen display would be good for our team, whether it would smooth our process in, and whether we could integrate it in our creative production. So when I had this pen display, I started by drawing boards, some storyboards, and you're just drawing. And then when I flipped it over to erase the marks, I brushed off the eraser crumbs with my hand, and it blew my mind. It's like like having that sort of growth from being a strictly traditional artist to moving into digital has been both seamless and awe-inspiring. And seeing what everyone can do now with the tools we have is so amazing. So back to the narrative. Once I got out of school, I did what someone who spent what seemed like a lifetime as a student would do. I sat on my ass and I vegged for what seemed like another lifetime, which actually was about 3 or 4 months. And I built a pretty amazing reputation as the guy who could make it if only he wasn't watching Little House on the Prairie all the time. If you guys haven't seen that show, get off this thing right now and go onto YouTube and check it out. It's pretty sweet. So I had the wake-up call, and my wake-up call was when I went to see some friends' graduation at Art Center, and I ran into one of my favorite professors, Gary Meyer, who heard what I was up to. So if you don't know Gary Meyer was a brilliant teacher and illustrator. I can close my eyes and I can see that original big ass painting he did for the album cover of Chicago 13 that hung in his house. Check him out. So Gary goes and he looks at me and he says, "So, I heard you've been watching Little House on the Prairie." And we had a really good laugh. And then he stopped laughing and he told me to never show my face again until I got things sorted. And if you knew Gary, that was something, and if you knew Gary and he said something like that to you, then you really effed up. And that really shook me and got me going. So I got my ass in gear. I got my portfolio out and I started working in commercial and film. My main focus was storyboarding, which I love to do and still love. To me, it's like directing and being able to tell that story one panel at a time. I also did on-screen art for props, designing and executing paintings and drawings used in film. As another aside, I got to spend some time with Forrest Whitaker to talk art and motivation before creating art props that his character had to make on screen. And I also did key art for flicks that you probably can check out on the Sci-Fi Network. I really enjoyed working on these. The studio that I worked for was scrappy, and I would work and I would work in-house for them for 2 to 3 week periods, building my skills along the way. So I freelanced for about 3 years. I put my book into animation houses and agencies, some bites, some not, mostly not. Back then, the portfolios were physical drop-offs. So I had 10 books in circulation at all times. But the adage that mileage and experience makes you better is true. Working freelance taught me to keep a good professional reputation and a strong work ethic. And even though I've been in-house for a while, I keep these in mind always. So the one place that I said I would never work at was Disney. That was corporate, that was a man, that was a mouse. But when a good friend asked me if I was interested in applying in being an artist designer role, which was at a place which was then called the Disney Internet Group, I took a chance and got my portfolio updated. Flash was a tool at the time, and I learned it in a week. I showed the potential what I could do with Flash in my portfolio. But what I really sold was the real value, which was my storytelling and creative skill set. I started out as an illustrator designer, working on international website content. By my second year, I started to lead more projects and was gaining a reputation of getting things done. And I moved up to senior designer, where I started art directing Flash games and designs for sites. In 1 year, we put out over 40 casual games with 2 sets of creative teams staggering releases. From there, I moved on to develop character experiences on Disney.com, integrating animation and storytelling to the websites. We worked on creating characters, taking over home pages, and disrupting daily experiences that you would see on the websites with magical moments. I then art directed the movie and franchise sites for Disney, starting with Tron Legacy up until The Lone Ranger, and closing out the era of big Flash movie sites. And here we are at the present, where I'm creatively managing and art directing for the Disney brands on social. So here's a sampling of some of the work that my team has done this year. As I mentioned, I've been fortunate enough to have some fantastically talented people working with fantastically talented people in my time at Disney. And my current team is no exception. Each one of them is a senior artist that has no need for handholding, knows how to collaborate and get things done. They're a pleasure to work with, but don't tell them that. So some of this work you may have already seen. And I'd like to say, first and foremost, we're a marketing team. The art we create are made to bring attention to the Disney brand, films and properties and characters, with the intention to drive our characters to check them out on Disney Plus or get a product. And to do that, our team focuses on interpretive versions of the characters that appeal to the audience on social. For all of these pieces, we work closely with Studio, Walt Disney Animation Studio, Pixar, Lucasfilm, and all our other partners. Each piece goes through a ringer of a process, with ideas, comps, work in progress, and final deliveries getting reviewed and refined throughout. The work is a mix of our in-house team of 7 and freelance creatives that we engage in art direct. Some of you may have asked on some of our various social handles to give credit to the artist. But depending on the handle policies, we're not always sometimes allowed to do so. And when you're an in-house team, you go creditless for the most part, because everyone would be really tired real quick seeing the 7 names pop up every other day on these handles. And here's some examples of some of the latest stickers that we've worked on. We've consecutively worked on Ralph Breaks the Internet, Luca, Raya, and the Jungle Cruise. Our team provides viz dev, concepting out stickers, providing character design and animatics, And an animation house provides finished animations based off of those designs in pre-production. The projects are super fun to work on, but they're also some of the most intensive due to the tight deadlines and the incredible hard task of coming up with character designs that work within a small limited size that will also conform to the file size limit of those platforms. One of the things that I encourage the team to do is always to see our work from the eyes of our guests. Try not to think about what we as marketers or artists want to sell, but what we as guests want to use. And yeah, so these guys are like kind of amazing to do. We usually do 21 stickers each, limited frames, 1 to 2 seconds of animation. And again, like we can get super, super detailed, but it doesn't matter, where at the end of the day, when we have to size these down to like 500K to send over to Apple, it sometimes is like we have to be creative and cut frames and everything like that. So all throughout the process, it's always a trying thing to do. So although I spend the majority of my time art directing, I occasionally get to do some art for the handles myself. And I wish I got to do more, but at least these remind me that I still get to draw and paint. If anyone sees me in person, ask me to show you the source file for that Utopia shape of water food poster that we did for the Oscars that year. There's so much bashing and painting. Those poses do not exist in any CG form, but we had a lot of help from our partners at Animation. And if you have a chance to see the full series of these, it's pretty fun. So for the most part, my work is roughs and layouts and creative management. I do a lot of problem solving and coming up with creative solutions. Sometimes one of the hardest things is locking down the availability of a creative you hope to engage on the project. These days, the day-to-day art direction is with my 2 leads, Gabby Zapata and Craig McKay. I try my best to let them do their jobs, and I'm there to back up their decisions. I feel fortunate to do what I do, and I find it rewarding and challenging, and best of all, I love to boss people around. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about art direction and what I think are the key traits that I live by. So first of all, having the eye, or having a strong attention to detail and composition. So, do y'all know what tangents are? I hate them. Andy Dreyfus, the creative director of Pixar that I worked with, was a tangent hound, and he taught me well. I found this a couple of weeks ago, and it drives me crazy. Tangents are lines and shapes that are touching but not intersecting with each other. So they don't break the line, they just kind of like touch each other. And they're not bad per se, but visually they trap a viewer's eye. And your goal is to have your audience flow through a piece and go through each different read in the composition. Something like a tangent will like kind of lock you in place, or at least it does me. So having the eye means that you're looking at the whole piece holistically, that sometimes you're adjusting colors to read well, adjusting the focus of a piece, because sometimes too much is is like you don't know where that read is, so you have to kind of place those. It also means being able to suggest changes that might not be mathematically correct, but visually correct. So I don't know if you guys have ever come upon this, but let's say you're using, you have a font that you're using in Photoshop, and you use the align center button. That is mathematically correct, but sometimes your eye isn't seeing that as square, because maybe a ligature or something is sticking out. So tweaking it 2 pixels to the left and 2 pixels to the right will fix it. But But that's sort of the stuff that I deal with, and that's one of the things I hold true. I also feel like being able to pivot and turn is super important. It pays being flexible and prepared to make creative adjustment and provide solutions at all times. I think that 90% of the projects that I've worked on have had some sort of requirement or request that could easily derail the delivery. And I'm usually thinking of contingencies, even when I'm confident in the piece. The moment we turn something in, I'm already thinking of what's someone going to see wrong, or if something comes in, what can we kind of either say to defend it, or say something that will continue to make the progress happen. As an art director, you're the shepherd of the project, and you have to make decisions that, even when they divert from the original brief, make sense for the project and everyone who has a stake in it. And that's the thing. You're also the protector, right? So for the team and the artists that you work in, you're the one who is trying to make sure that their best interests are served. And so when we work with artists that we engage, we hire them for their style, but we also hire them for their style in a way that can conform a little bit with the Disney guide, that like a character feels like a character. So our goal and what we try to do is, like, if we hire someone who does something that's kind of very much their style, we're going to do something that is as close to what they would do or we feel would do as possible. And if a partner doesn't agree with us, we have to try to provide those solutions to get to the even ground so we can keep moving. Having clear communication, and that is not the spelling of communication. But anyway, pretend it is. And as you can see, I did not communicate that properly. So anyway, what I'm about to say before I switch off this horrible screen is to be articulate in your thoughts, whether it's through drawing, talking, or in this case, writing. Getting your message through clearly is the key. And this is really what I feel an art director needs to know: what to say and what not to say. And by that, I mean, in your head, when you're an art director, when you see something, you have a million adjustments that you want to make, either personal taste or just because you're always thinking critically. And what you have to do is you have to filter all that through. And it's not about delivering all the notes that you see fit. It's delivering the notes that are going to improve the piece, that are necessary, and most of all, make sense for the timeline. There's always a time where I'm looking at something, and the first thing that comes into mind is, because again, I'm a working artist too, and that's served me well, where I can look at something and say, okay, if I have someone make this change, it could take half an hour, it could take a day or something. And is that time worth the change that I'm asking for? And if the answer is no, then I can walk away from it. The other thing is to have clarity of notes and in clarity of your notes and in your overlays. So the thing that I'm showing on the screen is a technique that we use of a before and after GIF to show the artist what we're looking for specifically. So Gabby from our team started using them, and we've used them ever since. We show a static, and we usually have notes that come with it, but having it this way really shows exactly what we're doing and also what we're trying to push out. And if you notice, sometimes we're not being 100% accurate in the drawing, like we are with I don't know what to call him, Clockman. See, I'm a great Disney art director. The other thing that you guys need to know is I'm horrible at remembering things, and I have a team together so that they can tell me what Clockman's name is. So anyway, with Clockman, You can you can see that we didn't really do it 100% on model. And part of that is so that it allows the artist to kind of like do their sort of interpretation without being locked down in our designs. The other thing is to provide constructive criticism. And this is the thing, is that you sometimes have to be blunt and straightforward. I've learned this, again, over 20 years of giving notes and art directing, that I started, because I think I'm a pretty nice guy, started with giving notes that were kind of more flowery. And what I noticed was I wasn't getting the idea across. If I said, oh, this is brilliant, blah, 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 maybe that wouldn't get what I really wanted. So I am still a nice guy, but I'm honest. And the other thing is, I'm honest and straightforward, but I will not do anything that's going to destroy the artist's confidence. Because at the end of the day, that's what's getting us through, is the artist being comfortable that we're still partners and that we still want their vision to be seen when we deliver. So this is one of my favorite parts, is being a selector. And if you guys don't know that term, a selector is like a DJ who's able to choose songs and pick the perfect mix. And that's kind of what an art director is. You're a curator. Your job is to find the right vibe for the show. And we curate and showcase work. And it's all about being able to select the right look for the assignment. And here's some examples of some of the artists that we've been able to work with and that I've had a pleasure of being able to bring on to do pieces for Disney. I prefer, and things that catch my eye are solid draftsmanship, use of color, knowing when to go super vibrant, when to have a mix of like subtle with a punch. Storytelling, 100%. I'm all about storytelling. I love a unique vision, and one that I can see creating a unique interpretation of our characters. Sometimes there's artists that I love, but knowing what their style is, you know that they're not necessarily a good fit for a piece. The other thing that I look for, especially for what we do, is how versatile or how one note an artist is, and whether they might be flexible to work with a group like ours. Because here's the thing, we're entertainment. We request revisions, tweaks, everything to stay on brand. So it's kind of the joke, not joke, that I always give when we have a kickoff with our creative partners, which is, this is the last time we're going to like each other. But you know, sometimes it's true. And I've really had a privilege of working with a lot of artists that I've long admired, like Lauren Tamaki, who did that Ursula piece, Tony Babel, who did the Finding Nemo animation, or Mark Chiarello, who did that Maleficent piece. These are all folks that I've either admired their career coming up, admired their work going in, and I never thought I'd have an opportunity to be able to work with them on a one-to-one basis and help shepherd them to create a cool-ass piece that we can put on our social handles. And I'm really glad that I have that position in order to let them play in our sandbox. So the other thing is taking chances. And that's having the ability to get out of your comfort zone and to work with a style or medium that's not really your jam. So my former creative director tasked me with this amazing opportunity, but amazingly insane opportunity, to art direct some fantastic illustrators who were engaged to illustrate interpretive art pieces for Disney villains. It definitely was a challenge. There were some artists that I would never have chosen. There are some artists that were not in my my sort of purview. So having like someone who could influence what we did was fantastic. And it was definitely a challenge. I mean, you can see some of these pieces here. You might wonder like how we were able to make these official Disney work. And the answer is amazing art and good art directing. And so there are also times when my art director to leads want to work with artists whose work may not appeal to my own personal taste. And that's part of my job, is to assess whether the artist may be engaging to our audience and whether they can successfully interpret our characters. And if the answer is yes, then I've learned to step back and let the process work. Have faith in my team, have faith in my art directors. And you know, sometimes we luck out, most of the time we luck out, and sometimes it's a challenge, but you've got to take that chance. Diplomacy. So again, I can definitely say I gleaned a lot from my dad's job. And I will say that working in the entertainment industry is a lot like working for the government. There's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of levels of approvals. And an art director must be a diplomat, making sure that the creatives and the clients are able to get what they want from a product. Sometimes a stand has to be made to ensure that a piece's integrity is intact. And sometimes a concession needs to happen so that a piece can move forward. Finding that right balance is definitely a tricky skill to develop. And of course, working under pressure. So being able to create a perfect project is easy when you don't have deadlines, budgets, or approval to meet. Honestly, I actually really do well working under pressure. And I feel like to be a good art director, you have to be able to do that. And being able to deliver the goods is a vital trait to have. Having pressure is a good thing if you know how to use it to your advantage. I sometimes take it and it puts a fire in things. It keeps me always focused and moving. Sometimes when there isn't a deadline, I'll put a fake one on there because I need that person. To show some of the examples that we have here, we produced, so the top rows, we produced 5 illustrated covers and 64 pages for this Disney Plus magazine from scratch in a month. That was on top of everything else that we had going on that month. It's an amazing project. If you guys get your hands on it, I'm so proud of the team that worked on it and all the artists that that dealt with us. We made some crazy decisions and things in order to make this happen. But again, at the end of the day, no one knows this except for us. We also produced this Disney Plus mega poster, which was done for the first anniversary of the service. We had multiple brands approving, multiple IP existing in a single image, which is a super challenging thing. But as you can see in the piece, totally worth it. And the other examples there for are examples of date-driven deadlines with unmovable holidays and movie releases, which again, super stressful, but ultimately super pays off and fun to do. And the other thing, of course, is letting go. As with diplomacy, there's a time where you have to let go of what you want and focus on what the project needs. Being a good art director or creative lead is knowing when to call a piece done. And being comfortable with that piece is super important. And the other thing about letting go is being comfortable with that the work we do in the entertainment industry is fleeting and ephemeral. It's been 20 years, and again, there's so many things that I've done that are now buried because technology is gone. Or if it's on social, someone saw it for 2 seconds and it's already down the feed. But if you can do that, you'll actually be a much better person for it. And lastly, I want to give credit where credit is due. As much as I'm aware and proud of my contributions, I always give props to the folks who I work with. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the projects that I've worked on in the last 20 years have been made by brilliant artists and designers who often go uncredited. So I'd like to highlight some of these folks whose work can be seen in this presentation. Look at those names. Anyway, screen cap this, I'm moving on. So thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to all 2 of your questions. So bring it on.
We have much more than 2 people on, much more. So we have a lot of people in the comment section. Craig McKay says young Frank is the best to your childhood photo.
I love that photo. And I will crush the wall with that rock.
Chelsea Helms wants to ask, what was your position at Disney? Art manager, all that you expected and hoped for, or art director?
Yeah, I can say yes. I love what I do. And I mean, here's the thing, and as I said in that little timeline, is I pretty much have been doing the same job for probably 20 years. It's very rewarding. A lot of people ask me, and I actually don't do a lot of personal work. And this is an honest question. I mean, this is an honest answer, is I'm one of those artists who is a working artist. I'm satisfied with the work that I do for the company. I don't really have that urge to do more work. And when I do, every once in a while I do pick up some freelance art, and I love doing it, but it doesn't feed my creative soul. But yeah, I love what I do.
Well, that is really, really awesome to hear, that you love what you do. Chelsea also wants to know, what project was the most exciting to work on?
It always, I'd say it deals with era. Let me see what era. Let's just talk about now. No, let me see. God, they're all, I'll cheat. I'll just randomly pick one. I would say that I really enjoyed working on the Tron Legacy website. I was a huge fan of Tron. That original movie is so wonky, but you know, it's of its era. And Tron Legacy was a fun show to work on. I'm always happy when the movie is as good as what we're trying to sell. And it also kind of taught me, because it was one of my earlier projects of doing these mega sites, was a way of telling story and extension stories through the medium of websites. And again, that's kind of what I am. When I say first and foremost, yeah, I'm an art director, but I'm a storyteller, and I put that in everything I do.
That was a really thorough answer. So you said that your favorite projects would have to be projects by era?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like, when I say era, I've been, again, with the company for over 20 years, but I'd say every 2 to 4 years, something shifts, whether there's an upheaval in the marketplace, whether there's a sense like, well, are we using Flash now? No. You know, will we be using Instagram in 2 years? Maybe your granddad's. So, you know, things have to kind of shift and pivot based off of that.
That's a great answer. You're constantly ebbing and flowing with change. So yes. I think your presentation really got to that. Okay. And then Chelsea's just really going, and she's really excited about your session. She wants to know how much of your style is implemented into the Disney GIFs or GIFs. I don't want to trigger anybody. I'm sorry. And or projects. And did you adjust your natural style to fit Disney style?
Well, internally we call them JOFs. So everyone just remember that.
JOFs?
Yeah, JOFs.
JOFs. Okay.
So anyway, with those stickers, we're actually, it's pretty amazing. So again, I have a amazing group of artists, again, there's 7 of us. We're very collective. Our group is actually called BizDev, even though we aren't necessarily visual development per se, like that someone that has in film production, but we treat it the same way, where we are developing and concepting ideas. The only difference is sometimes we bring it to finish. So with the stickers, we're actually very egalitarian. So when we do these things, there's sometimes 2 artists, sometimes there's all of us, and the first round is we all just put in styles, and sometimes someone's style kind of moves in, sometimes they don't, sometimes we blend it together. So for instance, in the Jungle Cruise stickers, which freaked the hell out of us because we're doing a live action, we need approval from talent. It was, we went through about 4 or 5 different ones, and that final direction is an amalgam of 2 of the designs. So, you know, our team is super flex, where sometimes someone does a piece all the way through, sometimes someone does the background, someone does the character art, and even in art direction, we kind of Beastie Boys it, where sometimes I get, I'll start off some notes, sometimes I'll finish them, but what's pretty amazing is we have worked together with so many years that we're very, very succinct in our ways. Like we're constantly like saying the same thing or thinking the same thing. And luckily we make really good decisions.
Thank you for that thorough answer.
Sure.
Inez Tapia wants to know, what's a big issue you face during production and how do you overcome it?
I mean, it depends. Depends all the time. And I will say, I'll say the biggest challenge is getting multiple people to sign off. And again, like I go back to bureaucracy, where every partner has a different idea of what this piece should be. For us, sure, we look at it from a marketing lens, but we also see it from as artists. So there might be a battle that we might have where, from a creative standpoint, we might have all like the colors be monochromatic, and there might be a need to make sure that the skin tones are color accurate. And we can do that battle, but at the end of the day, we have to have clear understanding of what the goal is. And, you know, one of us will either concede or argue or win that challenge. But yeah, I would say a lot of it is being able to come to agreement to meet a deadline.
Deadlines.
Okay. Yeah, deadlines suck.
Everybody's favorite thing, deadlines. Yes. But they do push you to a finished product,
for
as
sure.
Annoying as they are. Jennifer Breeder, sorry if I said your name wrong. What are some things someone going to an art direction career should highlight in their portfolio?
That's a good question. I mean, considering, you know, the thing that's so tricky, right, is we all have our A's and our B's in terms of what we want in our career. And sometimes someone can really focus and get there. You know, as you can see, my career path was to be a working illustrator, to be a storyboarder, you know, to be a painter. I fell into this. And I think a lot of us will fall into this because typically, if you look at the roles, art direction isn't something that is available to someone who's just started. The roles are usually, oh, you need 5 years, 10 years experience or something. So what I would recommend is, if you have a career goal, let's say you want to be ultimately an art director in TV animation production or animation production, or a art director for a creative agency, then you ultimately actually start from the bottom, and you learn what the roles are. What I would say is, watch my video. Look at that. Look at the sense of like what traits have brought me to this place. And it's the same thing. It's creative thinking. It's being flexible. It's having the skill set, and it's having at the end of the day, the communication. You know, that's probably one of the things that I don't have in that, is that I'm a really good talker. And so being able to be in a position where I'm starting out, having the, I don't know, having the kind of like chutzpah and ability to be able to say, I can lead this role, or I think if you let me do this, I can bring this to a different place. And that's kind of like how I made my way there. You know, every artist is a different person. Not everyone is going to be a type. And here's the real story, is that in a team, a team of A personalities would be a horrible thing. It's like people need to be leaders, and there needs to be people who are followers. But that doesn't mean that you can't rise up. And the thing is, like with our team, is every one of our team, we're giving opportunities for them to art direct our artist partners that we're working with, our illustrators that we're working with, because at the end of the day, they've done the mileage, and we want to give the opportunity, if they want, to be able to kind of flex their muscles that way.
Definitely. And I would say, from what, I mean, Frank, you demonstrated very clearly you're a great communicator. So I would say that you very much included it in your presentation, other than the misspelling of the.
Yeah, I'm a horrible speller.
Which, I mean, if Grammarly didn't exist, I would be, you know.
Yeah. That's actually my blue space. If you look back at my presentation, there are 5 typos, and if you get it, then
who can find the 5 typos?
Yeah, then you get like a Xencelabs tablet. Ta-da!
Speaking of, make sure you guys visit the description box to enter to win a Xencelabs tablet. Oh man. Oh man. Everybody, 5 the 5 ones. By the way, very quickly, who was it? Craig McKay got bragging rights because he very quickly named your clock man Cogsworth.
See, so Craig is one of my art directors with Gab Zapata. He knows what his job is, and his job is for when we go into a meeting, to someone to whisper in my ear something like, I'll tell that my wife's looking at me because she knows this horror story. But when I was pitching the website for Brave, we were in a meeting room, and you know, there's telecommunication going on. The directors of Brave are on the other line in up north, and I'm pitching this thing, and again, I just don't remember names of characters, so I'm making this pitch, slinging it really well, and my lead at the time, Stacey Aoyama, was whispering sweet nothings in my ear of like what these characters' names. I had the directors of the movie voicing back what those characters' names were. But at the end of the day, they understood the flow of the flow of the site. They knew what I was talking about, and you know, there's Merida, and then there's the other characters. So whatever.
Main characters covered. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have time for one more question. It's from Dark Mink. When you have a project to work on, are the requirements fairly strict, or is there wiggle room for creative freedom?
Repeat that again. Sorry, I was stuck on Dark Mink. You have a wonderful name.
Is that right? When you have a project to work on, Are the requirements fairly strict, or are you given wiggle room for creative freedom?
It really depends. And I will say, like, in our current world right now, it's been amazing because our partners at Disney Animation and at Pixar encourage us to stylize, because they understand, like, they understand that they have a good partner in us, and that we will not go too far in everything. But yeah, sometimes the requirements are pretty tight. Like, for instance, with the stickers, there are very specific requirements that we have to conform to, right? There are, there's the composition, there's the number of frames you have to do. There are also guidelines on what the characters can or can't do that we have to follow. So whenever we go into a project, what I always say is that we have to be an expert at that brand, at that property. And we go through a lot of cycles. So if we're doing a piece that is for Home on the Range and a team member has not seen that movie, hey, good luck. You got to watch that thing. You got to learn, you got to look at, like, some turnarounds and stuff to figure it out. And you have to be the expert, because when you're working with someone who doesn't know that, or you're doing that piece yourself, you have to be that. Otherwise, you're just doing thin art.
Totally.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. I just shared my screen really quick because we are at the top of our time. Thank you. We have a few more questions rolling in. So Frank, if you want to answer those in the comment section below after this video is over, Frank will try and get to that. But if not, thank you everybody for coming. Again, please check out the description box below. There's Frank's information if you'd like to learn more, or just give him a follow on his socials, as well as the exclusive giveaway that we're doing with Lightbox. It is the last day of Lightbox, so all of our giveaways will be closing at the end of day, midnight PST time zone. So don't miss out on those. And yeah, we have a 10% off promo code as well. So are you using the tablet today, Frank?
No, not today, but I can say that I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's like you guys have a solid product.
Good. Thank you. Well, thank you again so much, Frank. Your presentation was madly insightful. So I know I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad I could be able to yap away for a couple of minutes, and really appreciate you guys having me. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Cheers.